Good morning, beautiful people. Good morning to you. Would I be safe in assuming that a big part of what you really love about what you do is that you get to create beautiful hair art on the daily? Throw me some love in the chat. Let me know if that sounds like you. I'm willing to assume, yeah, absolutely, right? And is that where our job starts and ends? Absolutely not, right? You are the president and the founder and the CEO and the CFO and the receptionist and the cleaning crew. You're the marketing team, right? You're the accounting team. You're the talent, right? And all of it combined. So I think it would probably be super safe to say that your time is super valuable. And if I were to tell you that today I'm going to share with you a really beautiful haircut that's super customizable to make it unique for each one of your guests, but I'm also going to give you tools and techniques along the way that are going to give you beautiful, stunning results, but quickly and easily. Does that sound like something that would be beneficial to your days behind the chair in your studio? If yes, throw me some love. Let me know. I hope so. I want to thank you so much for being with me today. I believe that time is one of the most valuable commodities that we have to share with one another. So I do not take lightly the fact that you are spending your time here with me today. I'd also like to thank you for your investment into yourself. I'm a firm believer that anytime one of us takes an opportunity to further our skill set or expand our knowledge base or just spend time cultivating our creativity, we not only invest in ourselves as artists, but we invest in this beautiful industry that we all love and call home. So give yourself some love for that. Pat yourself on the back, dust your shoulders off, all of that good stuff. So if I were to tell you that today we are going to do just that, I'm going to show you a beautiful modern shag with a curtain fringe that is super simple to do. It's done on dry hair, which is a super reactive way of cutting. And what's really nice is for us behind the chair, it cuts out a lot of time. So we'll dive deeper into that as we're moving through our cut. But beyond just being a great cut, because a great cut is really fun to learn and fun to use, but it's gathering these tools, right, and these techniques to take with us and use creatively in our own way, right, to just expand our tool belt and make us that much stronger in the art of cutting and specifically dry cutting. So we're going to go through today how to customize this look for short hair versus long hair, different textures of hair, fine, medium, or coarse. We're going to talk about how to adjust this haircut for curls and coils, and everything in between. How does that sound to you guys? If that sounds good to you, give me some love in the chat. Let me know you're here. Let me know you're feeling it. We're going to have a lot of fun today, you guys. So my name is Julia Gillihan-Cobb. I'm a matrix artist of like 17 years now. And this beautiful career that we're in has taken me all around the country and abroad. I've done shows and venues as big as, you know, the biggest hair shows. I've done photo shoots and runway and stuff just like this today. Yes, Leslie, perfect. I love it. Whether it's a few of us artists or a lot of us artists getting together, I know that we are all going to walk away with our souls fed that much more, right? And so I can stand here with you today and tell you that in all of those venues I just talked about, and specifically behind the chair in my studio, because I live the same life as you guys, so I 100% get it. This cut and these techniques that I'm going to share with you deliver, and they deliver time and time again in a variety of ways. So I hope that you walk away from today feeling enriched and invigorated and ready to go on dry cutting, and specifically having fun with this really great shag that I'm going to show you. So if you're ready, throw a ready in the chat box. Give me a heart. Give me some thumbs up. Let me know how you're feeling. Okay. So I have a lot to talk to you guys about, but I know we are hairdressers, right? We're used to moving and we want to get straight to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is just dive straight into the hair with you guys. And then as we go, we'll start talking about how we would change things up and shift and veer to accommodate all different textures, all different face shapes, and how we choose what shape for what guest. Sound good? Okay. So the first thing I'd like to do is show you our finished product, right? Like, why are we even here today? Well, here we go. So this is my beautiful friend, and I'm going to get out of the way here and adjust my camera a little bit. So what do you guys think about this shape going on here? We have this beautiful, strong volume. We've created really strong lines, and then based on the way that we decide to cut this, and again, that's one of the things that's going to be super customizable, is where is that volume going to live and where are we going to collapse it? How much do we want to disconnect it and collapse that shape? But this is a really beautiful, soft, wearable shag with this really fun, soft curtain fringe. Now, what I wanted to show you was not only this beautiful model, just look at the way that moves and bounces, but I'm going to show you how this looks if we decide that we don't want such a strong fringe, because not every guest we have wants a curtain fringe. Am I right? So I want to just show you how differently this cut lives on a different texture of hair, and by keeping a longer fringe or no fringe and just incorporating these layers and disconnect into the hair. So what do you guys think? Versatility wise, already we're starting to see quite a difference just based on small little changes. If you guys are feeling this look and you're ready to dive in, let me know. I have one more girl to show you. So this is our beautiful curly and coily model. And so I have used the same exact techniques. Thanks, Leslie. I love it. We've used the same techniques, the same shape, incorporated into a shorter shape with a different pattern of hair that moves and lives differently on the head. And we create this beautiful shape. So like I told you earlier, everything that I'm going to show you today is completely customizable based on what guest is sitting in your chair. And these techniques are going to take you through all of those guests and all of the needs and desires that they have. All right. So are you ready to dive in? Perfect. All right. Let me get my little models out of here. Okay. So before we start any cut, right, or even color placement, we want to make sure that we have our roadmap laid out, right? Because if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. So I'm going to share with you my sectioning for my first haircut. So the first haircut I'm going to show you is going to be best on straight to wavy hair types. And actually, before I talk about the sectioning, I wanted to just quickly show you how I styled and prepared this hair. So when I'm in the salon, you guys, I typically dry cut. I dry cut, I'd say 98% of the time. And so how I work that with my guests is that they come in with clean and dry hair. I style it and cut it, and they're out the door. So that is one way to incorporate a dry cut into your day and save you a lot of time behind the chair. Another reason that dry cutting is so beneficial is that it's so reactive, right? So no matter the pattern of the hair or different patterns that live in the hair, right? Because there's never just one hair curl pattern. Um, the way that the hair falls, right? Where are the cowlicks? How severe are they? How strong are they? You don't have to think so much about elasticity and the hair, stretching and shrinking, because as soon as you cut, the hair is showing you how that is living inside of the haircut. So that's how I like to structure it. Structure it however you want to. I'm also do a ton of color in the salon. So the majority of my haircuts are also color guests, but I still have them come in clean and dry. I cut, then we go in with the color and style at the end. So however you'd like to structure it, that's just how I go about it. So the first cut that we did, these are the products that I prepped and finished her hair with. So all I did was I used a 1-inch iron, and I curled all the hair in front of the ear directed back, and then I alternated behind the ear. So taking a 1-inch curling iron and prepping that hair very, very quickly, you're already placing the shape into it so that you can go in and just cut away. So here are some images of the sectioning that I used and then the final result on a mannequin. So I've pre-sectioned a mannequin so you can have a really good up close visual here of how we went about this. You guys, this cut, again, like I told you, super simple, super quick, high impact, very customizable. So this looks like a lot of sections going on, but I promise you it's not, and it goes really quickly. So one pro tip I always like to say when I'm starting to section off my hair is I like to divide and conquer, right? So I always part straight down the center so that I make sure that I have symmetry on either side. And the first section that we're going to create for this haircut is our fringe area. So creating a parting straight from the apex or the high point of the head down to the recession and repeating on the other side is going to give us our fringe area. And you can just clip that to secure. Another thing is I sectioned this so we have really good visibility. When you're doing this cut, I don't suggest you coil the hair up like this, or it is going to be pretty interesting when you release it to cut it. So once you've created your fringe section, you're going to go in, and this is where it really depends, you guys, on your guest, on the size of their head, the density of their hair. But for this guest, I went back just about 1 inch off the hairline, and I created a parting to the high point of the ear. And then coming from the crown, I took another diagonal parting towards the high point of the ear. And where those two intersect is what delivers you your first triangle. Okay, so these are inverted or upside down triangular sections. So again, 1 inch in from the hairline, moving down to the high point of the ear, and then coming from the crown towards the high point of the ear, and where those cross gives you your first triangle. Okay. And so all of this perimeter you see is going to be the base of your haircut, or the immovable part of your haircut. All of the movement of this cut and all cuts is going to live above, right around the parietal ridge. So this will be our perimeter and what we work with later. So you're going to repeat that same thing on the other side, about 1 inch in from the front hairline to the high point of the ear, crown to the high point of the ear. That's your second triangle. And then in the back, we're going to do the same thing. So 1 inch from the bottom of your first triangle, you're going to take a diagonal parting to the occipital bone, and the same thing on the other side, and that is going to give you your third triangle. All of the magic happens, y'all, in these 3 areas and then the fringe, okay? So once you lay your roadmap, you are ready to rock and roll. If you're with me, say I'm with you in the chat. Are you ready to get going? Let's get moving. I'm so excited to show you this technique. Ooh, okay. And I'm stepping on my mic, you guys. Oh my gosh, I am literally the most clumsy human I've ever met. So bear with me. Okay. So, as I said, I pre-curled our girl, and just for time's sake, I'm not going to make you watch me section her out. Okay. So she's in the same sectioning as we just spoke about. And when I prepped her, I used my volume builder from Matrix and just blow dried for volume. And then went in with my 1-inch iron, as I already shared with you. Okay. So here we are. I'm going to clip away this fringe section for control. Now, one way to customize this cut is if your guest doesn't want such a heavy fringe, you can just start this lower than the apex. So that's another way that you kind of start to incorporate this for each guest and what's going to work best for them. So the tools I'm going to use today, super simple, your standard cutting comb. And I'm going to use a long shear. She has finer hair, so you're going to notice that I'm going to be going in and doing a lot more blunt cutting, because with finer hair, we have the opportunity to make it look more substantial when we cut with a blunt edge. So that's what we'll be working mostly with today, and then I'll show you different ways to texturize as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is in this crown area, I'm going to take a 1-inch section, 1-inch horizontal section, and I'm going to create my guide with that. So I'm just going to take that 1 inch right out of here, and she's a little wobbly, so here we go. And I'm just checking to make sure that my camera angle is good and I'm not blocking any views here. Okay. So I'm going into my crown section. And I'm just going to take a 1-inch horizontal section right in the center here. Okay, and I'm just, for the moment, going to clip that out of my way and re-secure this section for control. Okay, now, based on face shape, based on your guest desires, the direction that the hair moves, the texture of the hair, so on and so forth, that is how you are going to create where your guide, how long your guide is going to be. But you want to make sure that your guest has a straight head angle. They're looking straight ahead. Be sure that their legs aren't crossed in the chair. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this 180 degrees. We're going to lift this straight up. And for the sake of us today, let's say we're going to do 6 inches. So you can use your comb to measure and make sure that you're going straight up from the head. And then let me turn her because I am left-handed. See, that's probably better. Okay, straight up. And I'm going to cut square. So I'm going to cut straight across on the radius, which is ear to ear right here. Once I've established that guide, I'm going to create a section from the crown to the apex in the center part, and then I'm going to work off that guide, bringing everything up to the stationary guide inside of each triangle. You ready to go? Let's do it. So I'm taking my center part here, and I'm just going very fine, maybe about 1/4 of an inch thick on either side, securing away the rest of that triangle for control. About 1/4 inch parting thick here. Secure for control, and using the guide that I just created in the crown, right here, I'm going to take this hair straight up in my center part, combing with the fine teeth of my comb all the way up. Here's my guide. I'm cutting over my fingers. Straight up from the head. And there is our guide for the entire haircut created inside of that. Well, I don't know, if I wasn't running my mouth, it usually takes a few seconds, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, okay? So here is our guide. Now, the key point of difference in this haircut is instead of squaring ourselves to the section that we're working on, we're actually going to stand on the opposite side of the head. And what that's going to do for us is a couple of things. It's going to, one, allow us to see our guide so much more clearly. You know, when you're working on the same side of the head and you're pulling up all that hair and then you're moving it to see your guide, well, you don't have to do that because it's going to be right in front of you. Another huge benefit of working off the other side of the head is that you're able to make sure that your stationary guide isn't teetering or over directing where you don't want it to, therefore changing the shape of your cut. So you ready to go? All right. Let's do it. So I am going to start by working on the left triangle, meaning that I'd be working from over here. But today, you guys are going to be me. So you are going to be opposite of that section so that you can see exactly how we're working this. If that sounds good, if you're excited, give me some love in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling. Do you have any questions? I am literally here for you. So let me know. Okay. Now, I have my guide right here in the center of the head, and I'm just, as I said, going to bring everything to that stationary guide. Now, I'm going to check my guest's head again and make sure that she's straight ahead. We don't need any dips or looking down, no graduation at this point. We are just looking straight ahead. So now y'all see that we are coming straight up from the center of the head. So now I'm able to check that easily working on the opposite side, and then also look at my guide just showing itself to me right here. So first section, I'm pulling up, I see my guide. And cut. Now, there's a couple things you can do as you're starting to create the shape. You can cut this shape completely square. And we all know that a square shape is going to create what? When we cut a square shape, we're going to create corners, right? So if you have someone that you would like to place a stronger corner on, no matter where you're deciding that that layering is going to start, then cutting square and straight across is going to be the way to go. If you'd like to soften that a little bit and create a more voluminous look, because when we square, right, when we square our shape and our layering, then the subsequent layers underneath collapse in and create length. So we're creating more of that corner, and then we're creating length and longevity, right? Perfect for certain clients. The clients that we want to create more volume overall, say somebody who has more of an oblong face shape and we don't need to lengthen that, then what you can do is just use the natural curve of the head and the natural curve of your fingers as you cut. So I'm coming back in here. And you can allow your fingers to take that natural curve, and you're softening that end result. So it's really just dependent upon what you want to do. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to take my next subsection. Now, even though we're over directing all of this hair, we don't want to get crazy and take super large sections, because that is going to create uneven tension, right, in our finger position. And it's going to give us uneven results. So I'm still taking pretty fine sections. That being said, when you're cutting dry, you can often take a little bit thicker sections than you do when you cut wet. So that is another benefit of cutting dry. Now I'm almost through my first triangle, and I'm just going to continue on. And as I continue on, I'm just looking at the chat, seeing if there's any questions, comments, concerns. Are we seeing this? I'm pulling this straight up from the head, measuring with my comb. I see my guide, and cut. Small teeth of the comb for control. I'd say medium tension in my fingers, and just over directing straight up to that stationary guide. What do you think? Pretty easy so far? All right. Grabbing my next subsection, and we're just pulling straight up here. I want to make sure that I'm getting the best light for you guys. Pulling this straight up. I see my guide. Now when I'm sorry, my shears didn't want to cut that last piece. You ever get that with mannequin hair? It's like your scissors all of a sudden want to stop cutting. It's always at the most convenient times. Okay, so last section. You'll start to notice as you pull this up, you might not have as much hair reaching, especially if your guest already had some type of layering, but you just make sure that you're straight up from the head. Your comb is such an excellent tool for that. So much easier, you guys, right, to see when you're working on the opposite side of the section that you're working on. So now I'll give you a sneak peek as to how that's laying. Oops, I just kind of combed out a little bit of the ponytail holder I had for this section underneath it. So give me one hot second here. So here's our triangle. And here's our guide. Never be afraid to stop and readjust, right? When you're working, even when we're creating a whimsical look, right? Something that's soft and looks lived in and feels free, we still need to build in our structure so that it actually lives that way. So if you need to stop and readjust to make sure that you're on the correct path, to make sure that you're cleaning up, this goes down here, cleaning up a section that you pulled through, your guests aren't going to think any worse of you. I promise they're going to be so grateful for your attention to detail. So now you see as this section is released and you're seeing how soft that movement and shape is already being created. Now that's with blunt cutting on a finer to medium hair, and that's the shape that's already starting to be built in. Super easy, super fast, and we're just going to go in and do the exact same thing on the other side. Okay. So now, working from the opposite side, I'm just going to clip this side that we just started for control, and we're moving into our next section. So taking some of that center part that we already created as our guide, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take my first subsection, again about 1/4 inch, coming straight up from the head, using my comb to guide me, make sure I'm straight, pulling this up, see my guide, see my section I'm cutting. I'm keeping a slightly rounded finger angle for an even softer and more voluminous result. And we're going to glide right through. Now, what are some ways, if you're with me right now, throw something in the chat. What are some things that we need to consider when we're developing our plan of what cut we're going to give our guests and how we're going to shape it? What are some of the things that are super key in the consultation but are separate from what our guest is telling us, right? So it's so important to know what they like, what they don't like, right? What they enjoy about their haircut, what they'd like to change. But while we're listening to that and clocking all that information, we're also running our fingers through the hair. We're looking at them in the mirror, and we're doing a lot more assessing, right? So what are some of the things that are super important for us to assess when we're getting ready to cut hair? Well, face shape would be really big, right? Straight up from the center of the head, over directing to my stationary guide and cutting with the round of the head. The structure of the face and head, absolutely, Leslie, yes. Girl, I'm sending you love and celebrations. Absolutely, right? The structure of the head is what, having a firm understanding of the bone structure of the shape that we are creating our shape on is going to lead the path to mastery, right? And to perfecting our craft. Absolutely. So what about face shapes? What's a face shape that a cut like this, as we're doing it, would be absolutely perfect for? Yay, Leslie, I love it. Thank you for being here with me. So I'm bringing this up, straight up from the head, standing straight in front of it, right? As you are me right now, standing directly in front of this section. And that is it. We have finished our second triangle. Dum, ba, da, dum. Look how soft and pretty this already is. Now we have cut a substantial amount of hair pretty quickly and very easily, wouldn't you say? Now, one thing I want to share with you guys before we move on to the third section, because the third triangle in back, we're going to cut the exact same way. So we're going to cut it from the opposite side of the head, which would be, you guessed it, from the front of the head. And we're going to bring everything up to that first stationary guide in the crown that we created. And we're going to complete that whole triangle in the back. That's the meat and potatoes of this haircut. But I want to really quickly talk to you about our body position. So it's likely that most of us, I know a lot of us, have been or were taught the same body position in cosmetology school for years and years and years. I don't think it's ever changed. And what is that? If you're here, Leslie, let me know. What is that? It's a fixed squared stance, right, to the section of hair that you're working on. And so what do we say? Sure, of course, bend at the knees, don't bend at your back, but this doesn't really give you much movability. So if you're with me, stand up, get into that normal position. Leslie's like, yeah, right? That is totally the position we all learned to do hair in. And then what ends up happening over time, this can create so much back pain because we're constantly hunched, right? We're like rounding our backs a lot. This can create a lot of neck and back pain and a lot of pain in the shoulder blades. Not to mention that our arms, you know, we're trying to get closer and we're just kind of stuck here, right? So we're bending at the lower back, we're hunching over, our wrists tend to get bent at a you know, really overly extended angle. So I'm going to show you something that when I learned this, I was like, get out of town. This is incredible. So I want you to take that same fixed stance, shoulder width apart. See if I can get to my legs a little bit here. And if you're left-handed, which I am, your left leg is going to move back. Okay, so keeping those feet shoulder width apart. Now I'm going to turn as I do that so you can see this in relation to the head that I'm working on. So I've got my right foot out front. I'm still about a shoulder width apart, but now I'm able to lean in and lean back. And as I lean in and I lean back, I can go higher, I can go lower, and everything is coming to the center of my body. If you are at home and you're trying that right now, doesn't it feel amazing? It's so, so different. So now you move the guest chair as you need to, but now you're still squared, but you have all this flexibility to move up and down and all around. Ooh, nice, right, Leslie? Thank you. Snaps and love to you. So I promise you, I wish I learned this a lot sooner. I'm about 20 years in the game now. And since I have shifted the way that I stand and perform my haircuts, and I use the same stance for hair coloring, it's so, so wonderful. I am definitely feeling a lot less pain in my traps. I'm feeling a lot less lower back pain. And I also have like knee trouble because we stand for like 8 to 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, right? It's a ton of stress on our bodies. So taking just that little extra time to, one, just be aware of how you're standing, right? Aware of your body position, and then using ways just like I showed you. So shoulder width apart. If you're left-handed, your left foot goes back. If you're right-handed, your right foot goes back, and you lean in and out on the other leg, and it opens up so much wider range of motion for you while staying squared to your guest. So I hope that that helps you as much as it helps me. Just a little tidbit that I wanted to share with you before we moved any further. So, feels good to stretch my legs as well. Yes, good. I know we're such movers, right? sitting and watching somebody else do something is like a whole different feeling for us. Yeah, stretch it out. Okay, so just to keep some semblance of neatness and control for myself, I am going to oops, got a little bit of that face frame in there out. I'm going to reclip the sections that we've already cut just to keep them out of my way. Okay, so I'm going through and doing that very quickly. Doing the same thing over here. Nothing magical is happening. There we go. Okay. And she's out of the way, and here we are. So now we're going to be working in this back triangle that we've created. And remembering that was about 1 inch from the point of our triangle all the way down to the occipital bone. And I have those drawings on the wall behind me too. So I always like to have some kind of visual that you can snap a picture of that can bring you back to what the information that you gathered today. So I don't know if you guys know this. I mean, it's kind of really sad when you think about it, but adults only have about 7 minutes of good concentration, and then we do what I like to call shoe shopping. And that's fine. We all shoe shop. I get it. I'll never take offense to it. But if you find that you were shoe shopping anywhere, it is always helpful to see a visual so that you can jump back in when you're looking a week later, or if you just kind of forgot, right? Because Lord knows we've got enough going on. So this triangle is quite wide. Would you agree? And my hands are not that wide. So I want to make sure that I am maintaining complete control as I work through this section. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to split that down the middle. And I'm going to work from side to side. And we're working from the opposite side of the head. So again, we're checking our guests. Our guests never move, right? They're never looking down at their phone or reach for their glass of water or wine or whatever you serve, do you? So they turn around to look at us and tell us that story. We're like, girl, we can see you through the mirror. Hello. So always, always, always making sure that our guest is maintaining the position that we need them to maintain, because this is a team effort. A haircut is a team effort experience. So I'm bringing this hair straight up from the head, and I'm using my comb to make sure, just to make sure that I'm at the right level here, pulling that hair straight up, allowing my fingers to take that natural curve of the head, and I'm just pulling this straight up. So again, I'm off to the side, but what's so beautiful about this cut is working directly on the opposite side of the section that you're working on. So when you do this, it's going to feel so natural, and it's going to look a lot more natural than it's looking right now. Easy, 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 high impact. You guys are going to have so much fun customizing this for all of your guests. Leslie says, yes, I always make them sit up straight if I see any slouching, right? Slouch at home, people. We've got hairs to perfect here. Absolutely, Leslie. Okay, and so now I'm just carrying straight on through, bringing this hair up, straight up from the head, easily finding my guide here. Not much hair to cut because I'm getting closer to the base of the hair. So if you're not finding much hair, that's okay, right? It's not all going to stretch. That's the point. We're going to have a waterfall effect as this falls through. So I'm just coming back, taking a little bit on my next subsection here. Straight up from the head. Following my guide. How easy is this, Leslie? Do you see this as something that you can take back and start using on your guests super easily? Do you all do a lot of dry cutting in your day-to-day, or is it something that you don't do a lot of, but you're really excited to start incorporating? I just love it, you guys. I think I am, well, gosh, I think I'm just pretty impatient. You know, I am a total instant gratification type of person. Yep, she says. Awesome. I love it. I don't know about you, but I think part of like the big deal, what's so great about what we do for me is that I'm not like a doctor. I mean, we're hair doctors, right? But we're not like doctors or personal trainers or, we don't have to wait a long time for the results that we're creating, right? Sometimes, yes, obviously, if we have a goal to get to, we wait and we move towards it. But for the most part, we spend a couple hours with a guest and they have an entire new look, right? So we get that instant gratification of that whole new life where they sit up straighter without us. We always are making them, right, Leslie? We're making them sit up straight when they're in the chair. But once they're done and they're feeling it, oh, those shoulders are straight, right? They're feeling good. They walk out with more confidence. Like that's what we love. And I think to that point, the instant gratification of a dry cut is just so much more because every single cut you make, you see how that hair is living on the head. And that to me is so wonderful because the hair will show you, I know it sounds kind of woo-woo, but the hair will show you where it wants to go, right? So we get to move with and work with the hair. Yes, I love it, Leslie. I love dry cutting too, right? It's everything. And my guests all know now, just come in clean, people. I'll style you up. Now, I'm just going to carry this on through the other side. Yes, I get excited with new looks and the clients as well. Absolutely. So now I'm on the other side of that triangle that I separated for control, and we're doing the exact same thing. So straight up from the head, bringing this in, I find my guide and I'm cutting. Now, what if you had somebody who had more coarse hair or a really high density of hair and you wanted to incorporate this shape, fun and precise? Absolutely, absolutely. I love it. That is right. We want to incorporate this shape, but maybe they don't have just straight or wavy hair. Maybe they're moving more into the curly realm to where that's going to lay a little bit differently, right? It's going to fall naturally out of the head a little bit differently. What if somebody has a lot of density? I would venture to say that going in with a point cut instead of a blunt cut is going to give you a softer result from the very start. So if we have somebody, again, with finer hair or hair that's all one color, right? Because we know that when there are multiple tones in the hair, then you see the layering and the movement of a haircut differently than if it's a monochromatic hair color. So there's all these different things to think about and ways to customize this from the very start of the haircut. And just all things to keep in mind. I'm pretty sure I'm not the first person to ever show you a shag haircut, right? That's not the point. I'm not here to reinvent the wheel with you. I'm just here to add different tools and techniques and ways that can help your job feel fresh and feel fun and feel new and have great ways to go about doing that. And, at the end of the day, we talked about it in the beginning of our time together. Our time is super valuable, right? Time is money. So the more time that we can save while creating beautiful and unique looks for each guest, the better, because that's the more money we're making behind the chair. Okay, so now our back section, just make sure I didn't miss any hairs here. So I'm just coming on back and I'm brushing this hair all up. Now, since I'm cutting horizontally, How do I go about cross-checking my work? Absolutely. I know you're all at home saying, vertically, Julia, duh. So as you go through and you do your haircut, I always like to say like 4 sections in, I go in and cross-check and just make sure that my work is on point so that I don't ever get lost in the weeds. But if you do, that's okay. If you do the whole haircut and you were yapping like I was to you and you didn't cross-check it, you can just go back in, and the rule of thumb is always just go the opposite way of the way that you cut that hair. And what you'll see here is this nice diagonal line because we over directed the hair. So it's going to be shorter here. If I over direct it, it's going to look nice with that soft curve. If I pull it out straight from the head, you're going to see that diagonal line, and that means that we are A-okay. We've done it, baby. We've done it. So how are we feeling so far? Feeling good? Feeling energized? Are you with me? Are you here for it? Okay, so I am going to go ahead and release all of these little sections that I just rubber banded for control. Here it is. Now, this is what I want to show you. Right now, we have a very strong disconnect, right? Because we've left all of this perimeter for ourselves. Oh, she needed a haircut, baby. We left all of this perimeter for ourselves to work into. And here's where, thanks, Leslie, I love it. Here's where we get to have a lot of fun. Do we have a guest that loves a little bit more of a moulé than a shag? Well, then we leave this disconnect, right? We don't connect it much. And we go in and we finish up our detailing on the perimeter however we see fit. If you have somebody that just wanted to see some more movement and some more layering in their hair, but they don't necessarily, some people are always afraid of the names of the trends that come out, right? A lot of people are like, a shag, I don't want to look like, but it's always different than it was the first time, right? It's always revamped and new. So whatever the case may be. Now you see the softness of the way that this lays. That's also because of how we curved to the head instead of keeping it square. So again, if we wanted something with a harder corner, the difference in the way I cut this shape to the way I cut this shape, or I'm sorry, the way that the shape was cut is squared to following the round of the head. And you see the difference in the softness of the way that this falls. Again, this is what's so wonderful about a dry cut, because you see how it's living and moving in real time. So what do we want to do with this haircut? Well, let's make it a little bit more streamlined. Let's make it a little bit more commercial. Unless somebody shouts out to me that they want something different, all we really have to do from here is customize, you guys. So that means that you're going in and you're creating your face frame the way you want to see it. You're going in and you're creating the perimeter wherever it is that you would like to see that. And then we're going to go in and customize our fringe area. Are you all feeling good so far? Are you with me? I love it. Well, let's just go, right? Let's dive in. So as we're doing this, I wanted to take a little time and just talk to you guys about the other parts of what we do. Okay, so for this beautiful friend, before I get into my whole woo-woo love spiel, I'm going to go in and using just a really light finger tension, I'm just going to slide cut. Now we see where these layers are kind of living, right, where that weight line is. And I'm just going to slide cut down and blend that a little bit more around the face. And then what we're going to do is I like to take triangular sections. Triangular sections, why do we like to do that? Well, they're diagonal, right? And when we cut diagonally, when we place color diagonally, we're creating softness and blending. So that's exactly why we're doing this. And you'll see that as I pull this out, you see where that disconnect, let me get out from behind it so you can see it, where that lives, right? So you're not going to be adjusting much hair. You're just going in and ever so softly fusing that line together. Okay, okay, Anna. I think that BRB means be right back. But if it's not, you can tell me what you mean. Otherwise, we'll see you whenever you're back. So I'm just pulling this out, and I'm taking pretty large sections. Why? Because the amount of hair that I'm cutting is not very much, right? So I'm going to take this down, and I'm just softly blending these sections down. You'll notice in back, you have a lot more hair to work with, right? We don't have those pesky ears and that short hairline in our way. So you're going to notice that you have a lot more of a gradual line as you work through the back of the head. And that gives you a little bit more freedom too as to how skinny you'd like to make the ends back there. Now, if you have somebody with really fine hair or not much density of hair, you may want to create those original triangles that we created even smaller, right? So that you have more surface area to be your perimeter and fill that out and go in and customize. So there's so many ways that you can go in and use this technique to give any of your guests their individualized results. So again, now I'm right here in front and I'm going down and I'm just gently slide cutting. And you see how pretty and soft that is taking shape. Now, depending on a face shape, what if you had somebody with a heart-shaped face shape? Why anybody pays me to talk, I literally never know. We may not want to build all of that volume up right here. We might want to start those layers lower so that we're building volume where volume is needed and smooth, minimizing where a little minimization is needed to create that balance, right? So these are all just things to keep in mind as we're moving along. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to go through here. And I always like to work with comb control, especially when I'm dry cutting, because the hair is already laying in the way that it's going to live, right? So I don't need to put a bunch of tension on it. Comb control is going to give us the least amount of tension. It's going to allow that hair to just live and move as it already is. So I'm just going to hold the hair with my comb, and I am using the fine teeth of the comb. If she had a more coarse hair strand, I might use the wider teeth of the comb for the same level of control. I think if I use the wide teeth of the comb on such fine hair, we might just lose it all together. And I'm just going to follow this line straight on along. Now, y'all are my mirror here. Does she look even? Does she look happy? I feel like she's totally smiling. I think she's super into it. Okay, so I'm going to show you a really quick and easy way to do a curtain bang. There are so many ways to do a curtain bang. I know we've probably all watched 357 different ways in as many days or less, right? But here's one way that I have learned it, and it's a way that I do it. I think it's a little bit easier than this side needs to be pulled 72 feet to the left and this side 72 feet to the right. And yay, Leslie, I'm so glad you like it. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's always nice to have a few different ways that we do things. So this is one way that I do it. What is a curtain bang or a curtain fringe, by the way? It's just a layered fringe, right? It's literally creating layer. It's creating graduation. So instead of doing all that moving around, I'm just going to take a center parting and coming straight out from the head. So I'm not going to bring it all the way up. If I brought it all the way up, it would be a very strong graduation, right, as it laid down. If I bring it to a 45-degree angle, it's going to be a little bit of a gentler layering, right? You with me so far? So I'm going to take this section. Now this is where, again, you have complete control. I cut this girl. Here I am, I'm coming back. Their fringe was cut the exact same method that I'm showing you, just a difference in length, okay? So again, I'm all about techniques that we get to use for more than that one specific client. So I'm going to take this at a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to cut it to wherever I feel like it, honestly, right? Now, in here is a fun time to use a slide cutting method, right, to point cut for softness anyway. 45-degree angle from the head, coming straight out. Oh, sorry, I guess you can't really see that at all. Let's rethink this position, my friends. Thank you for your patience. Let me move that light there so you can see a little better. Let's turn her totally to the side here. How does that feel, friends? Is that good? All right. So straight up from the head. Now I'm going to go in and point cut. So now that I have this guide straight in the center, I'm just going to use my comb to follow the shape of the head, and I'm going to pie shape section and bring this all in. You guessed it, to a stationary guide again. So you notice the pattern that we have going here, right? Easy peasy. Everything keeps coming up to the same stationary guideline. So using my comb to pivot from that center. .45-degree angle. And now look at where I am. I'm on the wrong side. I'm on the side of the section that I'm working with. So I'm going to carry on. Boy, once you get used to working in front of the section, oh my gosh, I'm all tangled. Give me a second. Sorry. Okay. Once you get used to working on the opposite side of that section, it is difficult to go back, because now I'm looking right here at my guide, 45-degree angle, and I'm just going to go in and point cut. So the point cutting is going to give us a softer line. Oh, my shears don't want to cut all of a sudden. And I'm just going to keep this stationary guideline and keep moving around. Okay, so see, I have my guide, 45 degrees from the head, and I'm going to go in and point cut. I'm going to turn it. Now you can turn it once you have your angle and you have that grip, you can turn it to make it easier for yourself and more ergonomical. So, we feeling good so far? I want to talk to you a little bit hairdresser to hairdresser, human to human. Is that okay? Can we have like a human moment as I continue on? You all see what I'm doing here? So now I'm at the recession. Let that go and we see that soft movement that that's creating for us. I chose to leave her longer, and that gives you a lot more to play with. If you want to take it shorter, if you want it more severe, if you'd like it to just be soft and blend in with the rest of the cut, it's going to live somewhere like that for you. So at Matrix, we as a family like to make sure that we enter every experience, like the one we're in today, in kind of the right headspace, I like to say. So as I'm moving here and taking my pie-shaped sections and bringing them to my stationary guide in the center, 45-degree angle from the head. I want to thank you for daring to think outside the box here with me today. If we want to achieve different results, we got to do things differently. And sometimes a different result is not a different result in the end result of the hair that we're creating, but it's a different result of maybe keeping us interested through the day, or maybe achieving something in a quicker way. I would be willing to bet that maybe as common practice, the standing on the opposite side of the section that you're working on might not be something that you have tried and incorporated every single day. So if that was something new to you, kudos, congrats for trying it. Thanks for being open-minded to it. If that body positioning that we talked about, right? The way we place our feet was new and different to you. Thank you for being open to it and trying it, right? Whatever it is, maybe dry cutting is something that you don't incorporate and it feels totally foreign. Thanks for being here for it, right? So we always say at Matrix that we like to think, believe, dream, and dare. And what that basically is thinking outside of the box, right? Like we just talked about. I want to talk to you a little bit about like our dreams, right? We've got a few minutes here while I clean her up. Let's talk about that. Do you guys feel, is it just me? Does anyone feel like it's been kind of a rough couple years? Has it been a little extra for anyone? I know that it has been my experience in the salon for my guests and just really everybody. It's kind of been a lot going on, right? And sometimes when there's a lot going on, the dreams that we had like right here in front of us, right? Hell yeah, right? I see the comments coming in. Absolutely. It's been a lot. Sometimes when there's so much going on, just getting through the to-do list, the necessities for the day is like all we can get to, right? And that is something to be celebrated, by the way. I also have a 1-year-old, so it's my first baby. And so I am learning to celebrate all the little wins. Trust me. Like, oh, I showered today. Great. Stuff like that. But when there's so much to handle, right? When your guests are coming in heavier. Do you remember the good old days when we'd go home and be like, man, today was rough. 2 of my 5 guests were having a really hard lifetime and I feel heavy. Now it's like every guest and everybody you pass in the hall and everybody you pass on the street, right? And there's just a lot. And so those dreams that we may be able to have right here in the forefront of our vision, and maybe they are, and that's awesome. But for those of you who we just kind of have to push that a little bit to the side and just get through this, and then they get pushed a little further back and a little further back, and then they're, thanks, Leslie. Yeah, he's really cute. I mean, I'm a fan. I think he's really cute. Further back and further back, right? And next thing you know, they're like not on those dreams aren't on the back burner, but we're like, what were they even, right? When's the last time we thought about them? And if that rings true to you at all in any capacity, when we come together we, meaning us as artists, if you ever come to anything through Matrix, this is a really important thing for us, and it's a really important thing for me, is that this is your space to like reach back, no matter how far back you got to go, and get it and bring those dreams to the forefront, because this time is literally about that, right? How can I help you with this one little tip, right? This one little trick. How can this help you in your day-to-day to get closer to achieving that dream even faster, right? So this is the space for you to just make it about you and your heart and your passion for this industry and what you do day to day. So please have those dreams at the forefront. Thank you for daring to participate, and ask the questions and just be present. And that's what we ask you to do. So I just wanted to kind of have that little moment with you and just make sure I wasn't the only one, and just thank you for, everything you pour in every single day, because I see you. I see you doing it. I see you, and your guests feel it, and they love you. And sometimes we need to make sure that we fill our tank because we're so busy filling everybody else's. So all that being said, here is our finished product. Now, what you can do is go in. Now that we've created this long curtain fringe, and you can go in and maybe do a little twist cutting, right? A little twist side cutting. So I'm twisting the hair, but then I'm slide cutting through it just to give it a little bit more softness. Thanks, Leslie. Okay, just to give it a little bit more movement. Oh, I'm so glad you love it. Isn't it fun? What I love about it is just that, honestly, I've been doing those 3 triangle haircuts for 2 decades now, right? There's so many different ways we can do it. Oftentimes I'd be pulling it up vertically instead of horizontally, right? So creating a softer blend down, but there's so many different ways that we can adjust all of these tips and tricks and techniques to give your guests exactly what they're looking for. So what do you think? How does this feel? Are you guys excited? Are you ready to move on? And I just want to quickly talk to you. We've got about 15 minutes left in our time together. So I just want to walk you through how we would achieve a look like this on curly and coily hair. Yes, right? We have a lot of clients asking for the shags right now. Absolutely, Leslie. It is something that we kind of all started seeing and feeling and playing with. Maybe it's super sexy, isn't it? So bombshell. But then it could be like totally like rock and roll and hardcore. You can take the same principles and make it mullety, in the cool way. There's so many different things that you can do with this. And I promise you, once you do it once, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that was a 7-minute haircut. I think I have to stretch this out a little bit for my guest, right? They just get to talk more, or perfect more. And what's so great is just because it's something you learned here, it's not just a one size fits all. Exactly. I love it. Yes. Okay. So I printed something out for you that I wanted to hold up and show you. So if you have your phones handy, screenshot this. If you are not well acquainted with the curl pattern chart, please acquaint yourself with it. This is a really good visual. Oops, sorry, my finger was in the way there. Of the different curl patterns. Now, if any of you all have curly or coily haired guests, you already know that is a group you want to have in your chair because they love you. They will travel from wherever. They will tell everybody in their curly and coily hair community about you, because curly hair is not always a pattern that hairdressers are as well versed in, right? So, oh, good. I love it, Leslie. I'm so glad that you have it now. This is definitely something to acquaint yourself with. Just being able to speak to, and your curly girls, they're going to know. They're going to know if they're a 1B or a 2C or a 4C. They are going to know their curl number. So when you're able to converse with them about it and you know what you're working with, you're going to adjust your technique accordingly. So one way we would adjust, I'm just going to pull this back up to you. So like as you start getting to the 4B and the 4C range of curl and coil, instead of that hair growing down and in or down and slightly straight out as more straight and wavy and slightly curled hair is, it actually starts to grow up and out. So that hair lives and behaves completely differently on the head. So the ways in which we cut that hair are going to be different to achieve similar results. You with me, right? So that thinking outside of the box thing, right? So I am just going to, remember I told you all I'm clumsy. I got a lot of hair on the floor here, and I'm going to show you, kicking it out of the way so that I don't fall and break my neck. Okay, so here is the sectioning for the curly and coily model that I'm just going to walk you through quickly how we achieved this look, okay? So the first thing I did was I comb set her hair. And I did that with my Curl Can Dream Light Hold Gel. This is not a gel that's ever going to look wet. It's going to dry completely naturally. It is a fantastic working product. So on this side, I've sectioned her how we're going to cut the hair. And on this side is the finished product because I wanted to show you both. So you can see that we still have that strong weight line and then that hair collapses in. And I chose to kind of blunt round her out a little bit on her perimeter here, but you can also let that shag and hang even more. And then you see that difference in how that disconnect lies into more of a shag or more of a clean cut look. So again, so many different ways to customize this look. Okay, so bear with me here. The sectioning is very, very similar to our straight and wavy hair, except it's not quite as pointed in the sections as you'll notice, right? So when you're working with curly or coily hair, you do not need to take the fine teeth of that comb and really snag all the way through it. Let the hair live and move as it does, right? So you're just going to really gently with your fingers or with a wide tooth comb, go in and create the same parting from the apex or high point of the head to the recession or the corner of the eye. Okay, so that's your fringe area, and you repeat on the other side. I feel like I'm in the light here. And there you have it. Next, you're going to separate a parting from the radius to behind the ear. So the radius is ear to ear here, right in the center. So from that apex, we're going to go ear to ear, and we're going to go right to about that parietal ridge. And that's going to be our first triangle. And then we're going to carry that on straight around to the center part, and that's right at the occipital bone. And we're going to clip that up for control, and that is our other section. So we're going to have the one section in back, except it's a little more squared than triangled, and the two triangles up front. Same thing. As we go through with curly and coily hair, you're going to release the hair, and instead of pulling it all up and having a tight tension, you're more going to go through and you're going to cut it coil by coil. And I have a really strong curly and coily hair following. And the best way that I can tell you to cut curly and coily hair is to cut inside the C, or in the underbelly, I like to say, of that curl. Okay, so that means inside the C of that curl, you're taking your wide tooth comb. I just like to use my fingers a lot. I'll be super honest with you. And you go in, where did I put my shears? I'll just grab these. Pull that hair up, just like we did, right? 45-degree angle, and I'm gonna cut coil by coil. I'm going inside the C of that curl. So you're going inside, and you just cut it, just like that. So you're moving the hair just as you would throughout the haircut to create the same disconnect and connect it, but the way that you cut the strands of hair is just different. And it creates this beautiful, beautiful look that lets the curls live in their best life. I will tell you, dry cutting for curly hair to me is like, right? Because we're talking about reactive. We're talking about the different ways that different patterns lay in the hair, and curly and coily hair is even amped up in how beneficial it is to see the way that that hair lays as you cut it to get the exact shape that you want. So what do you guys think about this look? Isn't this so fun and cute? And can you believe it's the same techniques, it's the same haircut, it's just working a little bit differently through the hair. So I hope that today has inspired you to try something new, to have a little bit of fun behind the chair and to spice things up, whether that's in your approach, whether it's how you stand, or it's how you make sure your guest keeps their head, whether it's in the sectioning or the products that you're using. I hope that today brought joy and excitement to your artistic world. I thank you for taking this ride with me. I'm so glad that we had a chance to dive into dry cutting and how to customize these techniques for all of your guests. I hope that you take it back right away and you start having a great, great time. At Matrix, we are all about having products and services, colors and techniques for all humans, all hair types, all patterns, all levels, all underlying pigments, and all diameters. So if you have a need as a hairdresser, we've got you covered. If your guest has a need with their hair, we've got them covered. If there's anything that you need, please, please visit us. We have tons of incredible education that you can find on L'Oreal Access. This is my Instagram handle. Be my friend. Send me any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. If you ever need me, just reach out to me through there, and I'll always try to get right back to you. And I will certainly get back to you at my earliest convenience. We're all in this together. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Have fun creating, and I will see you next time. Bye.